After the death of Alexander the Great in 323 BCE, his vast empire was left without a clear heir, as he had no legitimate adult successor. His generals, known as the Diadochi, quickly began to vie for power, each hoping to carve out their own piece of Alexander's empire. Initially, they attempted to maintain unity by appointing Alexander's half-brother, Philip III Aridaeus, and his infant son, Alexander IV, as joint kings, but the reality was that power rested in the hands of the generals. The empire was divided into satrapies or provinces, with each Diadochi taking control of a region. Perdiccas, who had been Alexander EURTM's loyal commander, was named regent and took control of the empire EURTM's administration. However, his authority was immediately challenged by other powerful generals, including Antipater in Macedonia, Ptolemy in Egypt, and Seleucus in Babylon. Perdiccas's attempts to centralize power led to the first major conflict, as Ptolemy, one of Alexander EURTM's closest companions, refused to recognize Perdiccas's authority and seized control of Alexander's body, taking it to Egypt for burial. This bold move symbolized Ptolemy's intention to establish himself as a ruler in his own right, and it marked the beginning of the Wars of the Diadochi. In 321 BCE, Perdiccas launched a campaign against Ptolemy in Egypt, but his forces were defeated, and he was assassinated by his own officers. This left a power vacuum that only intensified the rivalries among the Diadochi. Antipater, the senior general in Macedonia, assumed control of the regency and attempted to restore order by negotiating a division of territories at the Conference of Triparadisos in 321 BCE. However, this division only served to solidify the Diadochi EURTM's power bases, with each becoming increasingly independent. Ptolemy strengthened his hold on Egypt, while Seleucus secured Babylon and the eastern territories, and Antigonus the One-Eyed took control of Asia Minor and Syria. These men, along with Lysimachus in Thrace, began to see themselves not as stewards of Alexander EURTM's empire, but as kings in their own right. The fragile peace between the Diadochi quickly broke down, leading to a second round of wars in the late 310 SBCE. Antigonus, who had emerged as one of the most powerful of the successors, sought to reunite Alexander EURTM's empire under his rule. He declared himself king in 306 BCE and began a campaign to expand his influence, which alarmed the other Diadochi. In response, Ptolemy, Seleucus, Lysimachus, and Cassander, the son of Antipater, formed an alliance against him. This led to the decisive Battle of Ipsus in 301 BCE, where Antigonus was killed, and his empire was divided among the victors. The defeat of Antigonus did not bring an end to the wars of the Diadochi. In fact, it set the stage for further conflicts as the remaining Diadochi continued to fight for control. Seleucus, having secured the eastern territories, now sought to expand westward, clashing with Lysimachus, who controlled Thrace and parts of Asia Minor. In 281 BCE, Seleucus defeated and killed Lysimachus at the Battle of Coropedium, making him the last surviving of the original Diadochi. However, Seleucus's victory was short-lived, as he was assassinated by Ptolemy Coronos, the son of Ptolemy I, shortly after. With Seleucus's death, the unity of Alexander EURTM's empire was irretrievably lost, and it became clear that the empire would remain divided into several Hellenistic kingdoms. These kingdoms, ruled by the successors of the Diadochi, would go on to shape the course of history for centuries. Ptolemy EURTM's dynasty in Egypt would last for nearly 300 years, culminating in the famous reign of Cleopatra. The Seleucid Empire, founded by Seleucus, controlled much of the eastern territories, including Persia and Mesopotamia, until its decline in the face of Roman expansion. In Macedonia, Cassander and his descendants ruled until they were overthrown by Antigonus Gonatas, the grandson of Antigonus the One-Eyed, who established a new dynasty. Each of these kingdoms maintained the legacy of Alexander, spreading Greek culture and ideas across the Mediterranean and Near East, a period known as the Hellenistic era. However, the Diadochi's constant warfare weakened the overall structure of these kingdoms, leaving them vulnerable to external threats, particularly from Rome and the Parthians. The wars of the Diadochi were not just a series of battles for territory, they were a struggle for legitimacy and the legacy of Alexander. Each of the successors sought to justify their rule by claiming to be the true inheritors of Alexander's vision, even as they dismantled the empire he had built. The wars also marked the transition from a unified empire to a collection of competing states, each with its own ambitions and challenges. In the end, the dream of a unified empire under a single ruler died with Alexander, but the cultural and political impact of the Diadochi's kingdoms would continue to influence the ancient world for centuries. The wars left a lasting imprint on the Mediterranean and Near Eastern regions, setting the stage for the rise of Rome and the eventual decline of the Hellenistic world. The legacy of the Diadochi is one of both destruction and creation, as their wars tore apart Alexander Urtm's empire, but also laid the foundation for the spread of Hellenistic culture and the rise of new powers.